Today newspaper review, Sunday, 3rd April 2015. Sunday Observer. Pilfered billion to be brought back. The Special President Task Force for the Recovery of the Illegally Acquired State Asset will start operations soon to bring back the looted state assets amounting to billions of rupees deposited outside the country during the previous regime. With the assistance of friendly nations, international agencies and organizations, authoritative sources told the Sunday Observer. President Maithripala Sirisena appointed 13-member presidential task force on Thursday for the recovery of illegally acquired state assets. The objective of this task force is to identify the looted assets and the wealth acquired using stolen state assets elsewhere in the world and bring them back to the country. Another headline in Sunday Observer, the American Overture. Kerry commands Lanka's return to democracy. Says US want to deepen partnership. Discussions on offer, not demands. Commenting Sri Lanka return to democracy. Visiting US Secretary of State John Kerry said the country has achieved enormous progress under the new government, but cautions that many challenges and difficult decisions still lie ahead. Speaking to US and local media after bilateral meeting with his counterpart of Mangala Samaravira at the Foreign Ministry yesterday, the US Secretary of State said that US intend to broaden and deepen partnership with the Sri Lanka in the future. Heading in this journey to restore your democracy, the American people will stand with you. His visit was the first since Secretary of State Colin Powell visited Sri Lanka in unofficial capacity in January 2015, soon after the Boxing Day tsunami. Kerry said progress in restoring democratic institutions, creating accountable governance, reducing power of presidency, battling corruption and reconciliation has been commendable in few short months. International arbitration in Sri Lanka soon. The first ever International Arbitration Center in Sri Lanka will be open on May 7th. The center will be housed in the World Trade Center in Colombo. A spokesman for the Ministry of Justice said earlier the minister said that the opening was to be held on April 30th, which was postponed due to a minor construction delay of the center. According to the spokesman funded by the government, the construction work was coordinated through the Ministry of Justice. Developing Sri Lanka as a regional hub in relation to allied service was highlighted in the 2010 budget. Next, move to the Sunday Times. Annual partnership dialogue with US. Kerry says to top official coming year soon for trade and investment talks. Washington assures full support to recover stolen assets. The United States and Sri Lanka agreed yesterday to establish an annual partnership dialogue. I have asked teams from our government to mobilize quickly to provide assistance to Sri Lanka, the visiting US Secretary of State John Kerry declared. He said officials of the US Treasury and Commerce Department would come to Colombo soon to work with the Sri Lanka government on economic measures that could be taken for greater investment and greater growth. Mr. Kerry made this announcement when he made a statement of the media after talks with Foreign Minister Mangala Samaravira. Mr. Kerry, in separate public address, said yesterday, "We are also ready to help on asset recovery and enforcement of the corruption rules." One more heading in Sunday Times. 20A Cabinet to decide on May 30th. The Cabinet will take up the 20th Amendment to the Constitution with proposal for a new electoral system when it meets again on May 30th, officials said. The amendment, which has been now compiled by the Legal Draftsman Department, was last taken up in the Cabinet on Wednesday. President Maithripala Sirisena presented into ministers advised them to study it carefully and to arrive at consensus with all political parties before the next meeting. Rajapaksa faction wants Emma to lead campaign. Nimal says CC must decide. Permitting former President Mahinda Rajapaksa to lead the UPFA election campaign and the inclusion of him in the nomination board are among the conditions to be put forward to the President Maithripala Sirisena for the unification of the alliance party members, said yesterday. However, opposition leader Nimal Siripala de Silva, reacting to the conditions of the pro-Rajapaksa faction, said any proposals would need the approval of the SLFP Central Committee. Only if there is majority consensus will be the agreeable of these conditions, he said. Next, we move to Ceylon Today. Ceylon Today has published most sensational heading of Sri Lanka today, that no American hand in Sri Lanka affairs. John Kerry. US Secretary of State John Kerry yesterday ruled out US interference in Sri Lanka affairs, but offered help and explained if there was such interference, Sri Lanka would not have invited US President Barack Obama to visit Colombo. At a media briefing where only 2 questions were permitted to be raised, the local media questioned the high-ranking US diplomat. Why should anyone see his visit as an interference in Sri Lankan internal affairs? Another headline in Ceylon Today, we look for consensus with Somavansa, Andra Kumara Dissanayake says. Andra Kumara Dissanayake, leader of Janata Vimukthi Peramuna, in an interview with Ceylon Today said the departing of comrade who shouldered a large responsibility is felt deeply by the party. Therefore, we will try to reach a compromise. Ceylon Today also mentioned stolen assets in US to be returned. Stolen assets in the United States will be returned to their rightful owners in Sri Lanka, US State Secretary John Kerry pledged yesterday. That's headlines of today newspapers. We'll meet tomorrow with more sensational news headlines. Until then, stay with Athavan News.